All right, so today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a challenge video, and the challenge is gonna be fishing 3 lures that are very underutilized, very undervalued, very underappreciated, and we're gonna catch a fish with each one of them. Now let's talk about those 3 lures. Now, these lures are not used very often, not spoke of very often, but it doesn't mean they don't catch fish. So let's talk about the first one, which is probably the one that I catch the most. It is the one that I catch the most fish on out of these 3, and that's going to be the inline spinner. I have 2 here, both 1/2 ounce. This is a white one with a silver blade. This is a gold blade with a little bit of pink and green on there, and they're Rooster Tail. That's the brand. There's about one other company that makes good inline spinners, and there's a lot of really cheap ones out there that don't work very well. So I definitely recommend using one of the better brands. Off the top of my head, I can only remember the Rooster Tail. They sell this at my local Dick's Sporting Goods, so that's the one I always seem to grab, Rooster Tail. Don't forget that. Now I also have a 1/4 ounce one. I'm in Florida. The fish are a little bigger, and if you use a small one of these, a big fish can bend this. So I usually prefer throwing the 1/2 ounce, and I'm usually throwing these on a bait caster, so it's easier to throw it with a bait caster when it's a 1/2 ounce. So first lure is the inline spinner, and mind you, on days where this works well, when you have ripples on the water, when it's windy out, when there's cloudy, overcast conditions, and the bass are roaming around chasing stuff. It is 90 something degrees. The sun is out. It is the middle of the day. The bass are not chasing stuff. We don't really have much ripples on the water, if any at all. So that's going to be the #1 challenge with that. But on days that we have had those conditions, I mean, there's probably been a dozen times where I've caught over 20 fish on this. And I mean, this was a lure I used. I grew up near DC, and there's not a lot of places that I had to fish, so I fished the local golf course ponds. And I can tell you that this was one of those baits when I was a kid that I caught pretty much my first bass on, probably. And I caught trout on it in the streams and rivers, because you have that motion, that those ripples on the water, that current. And this works well in that situation as well. And so I've probably caught quite a few fish on these inline spinners. Now, the bait #2 is a bladed bait. So a blade bait is this thing right here. And I have 2 other ones. And these are all old blade baits. And in recent years, these have grown in popularity. One Rod, One Reel Fishing actually did a video with these, and he caught, a bunch of fish actually. But these work especially well in cold water when, the bait fish aren't moving very fast, and you can kind of flutter this around. Now, this is just a chunk of metal. That's all this is. And I remember when I was little that a bait like this, a bladed bait looking like this, was fancy, because a lot of blade bait was just a chunk of metal. Now, in recent years, they've really made these a lot fancier. They have like custom paint jobs. They look amazing. And so they have grown in popularity, but I would still say this is an underused bait along with the inline spinner. A lot of people don't even think that these baits are for bass. Some people think these are for other species. Granted, both of these baits will catch you other species. Actually, this particular bait, this winter, I was at Lake Panasoffkee in Florida, and I caught a pickerel. And that was my first pickerel I ever caught, and I didn't even know there was pickerel in Lake Panasoffkee. So you will catch other species, but it is a bass killer as well. But it's not winter, it's 90 something degrees. So again, this is another bait it's going to be hard to catch a fish with. All right, and the last one is a spoon. And I have a big gold spoon here. I'm not sure if Sea Striker casting spoon 1/2 ounce is even any good. And I have a confession. I've never used a spoon before. I know it works well when you're out on a boat and you're sitting there and you're just kind of jigging it up, popping it up off the bottom, letting it flutter, make it look like a dying fish, and the bass will come up and eat it. And the thing is, I don't fish off boats very often, and it's the sort of bait you also use in the winter when it's gotten so cold that some of the bait fish are dying. And so if you just flutter this up and down and make it look like a bait fish that's dying, a bass will come up and think it's an easy meal and hit it. So this is a great bait. All three of these baits, one thing that's great about using baits that are underused is sometimes these bass, they don't necessarily get smarter, but they do get used to seeing or get used to being caught on certain lures. And if you present something in front of them they've never seen before, you might have a better chance of catching them. So all three of these lures, that's probably the only advantage I have of possibly catching a bass on each of these, is that they may have never seen any of these. But we are not fishing in the conditions to fish any of these. And yeah, we're just gonna be fishing some shallow Florida ponds. So really not ideal, but you know what? We're gonna make it happen. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the spoon, the lure I have no experience throwing. So I chose this pond because it actually drops off right here and gets, 8-10 feet deep. And for Florida ponds, they're usually pretty shallow and they stay shallow. This drops off pretty quickly. And so for this type of bait, I wanted to find a place like that. And I'm using a rod that has a good bit of bend in it so that it can absorb these treble hooks. And so this is like a 7-foot medium moderate. All right, so I tried jigging it up and down in this spot right here, like a hole 2 times. So now I'm gonna try casting it out and we'll see if that works. So now I'm gonna try just reeling it back, and maybe it'll give off enough flash that something will strike it. Going right here. Oh, he came off. Oh my goodness. Dude, I was just thinking, like, what are you doing? Why are you reeling back a spoon? Like, you're not gonna catch one doing that. And I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Just try it. That's how you find out how things work and how things don't work. It worked. All right, so now I'm moving on to my bladed bait. I've fished here probably half a dozen times, and I've caught a fish in this spot more than one time, but I've never caught more than one bass right here. So I'm gonna stay here though, because it is deeper. The water is warm right now. They might be hanging out in this deeper spot, and if so, we can capitalize on that. So right here I have a bladed bait. It only has one treble hook on the back. All right, let's just try to catch one. This tag end is a little long though. Don't make it a habit of biting that. You're probably gonna wanna use scissors. I just left my scissors in the car because I'm a genius. All right, let's get started. I'm just casting it out there. And you can feel it flutter when you raise your rod tip up. Dude, a bass just nipped at it right as I pulled it out the water. I almost caught one the same way I just caught it one with the spoon. Back-to-back cast. He followed it right up to there. I doubt you guys could see it, but oh my goodness. All right, I think we're gonna catch him pretty quick. All right, so we're walking. So I made a handful of casts right there, but now we're gonna walk to the other side of this pond and try to fish it from a different angle and see if we can't catch one with the bladed bait. All right, so we finally have those windy, overcast conditions and it starts raining. So I'm gonna have to take the audio from the GoPro and put it in the car because we can't ruin our audio equipment. It actually makes me think I'm gonna throw on the inline spinner because this actually in bad conditions for the inline spinner. Alright, so the audio is not going to be as good because I'm using the GoPro audio. I don't have any of my audio equipment connected to it because I don't want it to get ruined in the rain. But I am going to throw this on the chesty. Hopefully the wind's not too bad for the noise. Hopefully we don't get too many water drops on the lens. And we catch one with this inline spinner. Alright, let's get to it. I'm getting dumped on. We might have to continue this another day. But I'm going to try and wait it out, see if it passes by. Whew. Man, I got soaked so quickly. Alright, so it's 5 something now. It's still sprinkling a little, so I don't have the good audio hooked up. I don't want to mess up my audio. But I'm already soaking wet, so I figure a little bit of sprinkle ain't gonna hurt me. So I'm about to go out and see if I can't catch them while we still got a little bit of wind with that inline spinner. Alright, let's get to it. If it starts dumping on me again, then I'm just running back to the car. Alright, let's go. Oh, got one. Pretty good one. Nope, not super great, but hey. All right. On this inline spinner. All right, so we caught one on that inline spinner. We waited till the rain was gone. The rain is gone. The sun is out. We're gonna try to catch one on that blade bait. But first, the comment of the day. Illinois angling. Inline spinner was the only lure I threw until I was 7. Caught some 2 to 3 pound bluegill and a 5 pound bass on those. Nice, Illinois angling. And like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I grew up near DC, very urban place. There wasn't really any place to fish except for my local creeks and my local golf course ponds. And I used to throw an inline spinner all the time back then. I caught trout in the creek. I caught bass in the ponds. I caught a bunch of different species, including bluegill. Never any 2 or 3 pounders though. That's impressive. But I have caught some 5+ pounders on the inline spinner, and there's nothing like catching a 5 pounder or a 5+ pounder on a small inline spinner, some small line, and a rod with a ton of bend. Oh man, it feels like you're fighting a 10 pounder. Those are some fun memories right there. But let's get back. Let's finish this off. Let's catch one on the blade bait. Oh, got one. It's the best one. Yes. No, it's not even that great. Woo-hoo-hoo. And this giant right here is gonna complete the challenge. Can't say that with a straight face. But you know what? We caught 3 bass on 3 baits that are not ideal for where we are located this time of the year in these conditions. And so it was actually kind of a tough challenge. Like on paper, I don't know if I would have completed this challenge, but we did. This guy is tiny, but he's got a little belly on him. He is so small, but he has a little belly. All right, tossing him back. All right, so we actually figured something out with that blade bait. So if you notice on that last time, I started twitching it with my rod tip down. So, you know, I was trying to do the let it come up and flutter down, but it wasn't quite running right. So what I did was I thought, well, if I just give it some erratic action, that gold is gonna flash left, flash right, and something might hit it. And literally the first cast where I decided to do something different, do something that, you know, textbooks don't say to do. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not a technique on how to fish the blade bait. I'm not a blade bait professional. I've really used it a very small amount. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the blade bait, no one says to fish it that way. But look what happened. The second I fished it that way, we got ourselves a bass. So sometimes you just got to figure out what it will take to catch a bass. So a second ago I just walked around this whole thing and I tried sight fishing. If I saw a bass, I was gonna toss this right on his head and hopefully he'd bite it. I didn't see a single one, so I said, all right, well, I'm gonna have to figure out another way to catch him. And then I just came up with that idea and it worked. So this challenge is complete, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, hit the like button. If you hit the like button, it really helps out my videos, helps it get exposure and all that stuff. And smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you're not yet subscribed. And when you hit that notification bell, it notifies you when I post a new video, so you can be on top of all the new videos I post. And I think that's gonna do it for today. It's been real. Another day, another journey, another real journey, and we're out. Deuces.